Reb Zalman Schneerson. Most of the zichronis we're going to be sharing over here about Reb Zalman Schneerson were related by Harav Gringlas from Montreal, which was Niskarev Techsidis by Reb Zalman Schneerson. So Reb Zalman Schneerson from Velizh, or known as Reb Zalman Lodger because he lived in Lodz in Poland for many years. So he was born to his father, Reb Leib Schneerson, which was the Rav of Velizh, which his father, Reb Leib, was the son of Reb Schneier, the son of Reb Nachum, the son of the Mittler Rebbe. So our Reb Zalman Schneerson, already in the childhood, excelled in his kishronis, especially in his memory. At a young age, he moved to Velizh when his father became the Rav there. And in his trips to Lubavitch, his father would take him with him. One of his trips to Lubavitch was in the times of the Rebbe Maharash. So the Rebbe Maharash tested the kid on Gemara Somen Yankov Baal Peh. After the test, the Rebbe Maharash asked him, do you want to be a lamdan or a gvir, or a wealthy man? So the boy answered, he wants to be a lamdan. So the Rebbe Maharash told him, so if so, give me your watch and your golden chain that was attached to the watch. So the boy answered, no, I don't want to give that. So the Rebbe Maharash smiled and he said, you're going to be a lamdan and a gvir. And the Rebbe's bracha was niskayim, it was a lamdan and a gvir. He got married at Tafresh Nun Test. This was already in the times of the Rebbe Rashab. And Mesarei Kedushim was the Rebbe Rashab himself, who even said a few Ma'amorim Chassidus during the Chasana and during the Sheva Brachos. After his marriage, he moved to Vitebsk, where he went into the business of renting forests, exporting wood. During that time, he would daven every day between 6 to 8 hours. And he wouldn't eat anything before davening. And when the Rebbe Rashab even told him that he must eat something before davening, he couldn't get himself to do it. One thing that he did do is that right when he finished Shmoneh Esrei, when he was still wearing his talis and tefillin and he didn't yet start Tachnun, he would take out of his pocket an egg or a piece of cheese, which are shehakol, and he will eat. And afterwards, he would start the avodah of the rest of the davening, which would take about 3 hours. The Ma'ariv of Motzei Shabbos by him was a big avodah and used to take a very long time, especially when he would say the V'yinoyam and Ve'ata Kodesh after Shmoneh Esrei. Just V'yinoyam Ve'ata Kodesh, says Rav Gringlas, will take him about an hour and a half. And he would say it with tremendous crying to an extent that you couldn't even hear the words clearly from all the crying. Also, the Havdalah was a big avodah by him. He would say each word with a unique Geshmake tune. And afterwards, he would say V'yitin Lecha in a special tune. And then he would learn Gemara in a high speed. The Masechta that he would learn after V'yitin Lecha was Masechah Sukkah. And Rabbi Gringlas says that I recall him saying that that's what the Tzemach Tzedek used to do every Motzei Shabbos. And the reason for that is because every Shabbos, the end of Shabbos, is similar to the end of Yom Kippur, to Ne'ilah. And it's written that on Motzei Yom Kippur, you need to be dealing with the matters of the Sukkah. So that's why you learn Masechah Sukkah. Afterwards, they would serve him a cup of hot water, and Reb Zalman would sit by the table and relate Chassidish stories. His avodah in Kiddush Levana was also very unique and special. He would go down to the street, and if the Levana wasn't seen from the street, he would walk all the way until the city square, which was a far walk, where it would say Kiddush Levana over there, and Kiddush Levana will take him about an hour and a half, and his eyes were closed, and he would shake, similar to the way he would shake during Shmoneh Esrei. He would say Kiddush Levana in a very quiet voice, and you couldn't hear anything he was saying, even if you stood right next to him, except for when he came to saying the Shalom Aleichem. And that's what he would do even when he was on the cold winter nights. Afterwards, he would return home with the minyan that came with him, and he will tell them some Chassidish stories while drinking a cup of hot water. His sons related that when the date in the month started to get late and the Levana was still not seen, it was covered with clouds, Reb Zalman was in tremendous sadness and pain. And when he will get to those last few nights of being able to do Kiddush Levana, that would wake him up in the middle of the night as soon as they saw the Levana, and he would right away in the middle of the night go down and do Kiddush Levana. During the time where he lived in Lodz, says Rabbi Gringlas, he would go each weekday around 10 o'clock in the morning to a Chassidish shtibel, which was not a Chabad shtibel, in the Kamenov Street, which was not far from his house, to daven about 10 o'clock in the morning. During that time of his life, he would not, it was already in the later years, and he wouldn't daven as much ba'arichos as in his younger years. So he would daven with the minyan, very slowly with the minyan. He actually had his own special minyan of 10 chassidim who waited around for him, who davened with him every day. They were not Lubavitch chassidim, they were from the shtibel, and they would daven with him every day in his late hour. And they would finish around midday. And as a thank you for waiting for him and davening with him, he will bring them every day after davening a mezainis and some mashke, and he will sit around with them and tell them stories. And Rabbi Gringlas says, I once walked in there because I needed to deliver something, some message to him, and I found him over there sitting in the head of the table, and he's telling those chassidim who are not Lubavitch, who are not familiar with chassidus, he's telling them about this sefer called Hemshech Tofrei Samach Vav, which is a sefer that has 371 pages, and it starts off with a question on a Mishnah on Rosh Hashanah, and it continues with Ma'amorim throughout the whole entire year and a half, until in the end of the whole sefer, he answers the question, after all this Ma'amorim, he answers the question that he asked in the beginning of the sefer, and the people sitting around the table were listening and mesmerized about this concept that you have, this Hemshech of Ma'amorim. Sometimes, says Rabbi Gringlas, Rabbi Zalman will daven in a late hour in the old Beis Medrash of the city. And once it happened that he asked one of his sons if he could go to that Beis Medrash and find out who davens at a certain corner in the Beis Medrash. Why? Because he said that he felt that when he davens in that corner, he feels a very wonderful, unique feeling, a very uplifted feeling in his davening. So it must be that the one who usually davens there is a holy person. So go find out who davens there. He would care very much to warn people not to speak during Chazaras HaShatz. And he used to walk around the shul during Chazaras HaShatz and tell people, Mitar Nishred and Mitar Nishred, you're not allowed to speak. And he had attached to his siddur a paper with his own handwriting where he quoted different paragraphs from all over Ma'amar Chazal about the severity of speaking during Chazaras HaShatz and Kriyas HaTorah. On the night of B'dikas Chometz, says Rabbi Gringlas, I watched him during B'dikas Chometz with tremendous avodah. It will take a very long time. We'll literally lie down under the beds and behind everywhere. And it will take a very long time. And the reason is because from time to time, since for him it was also a spiritual avodah, he would burst out crying. And the crying very much disturbed his physical ability to check for chametz. So that's why he dragged for so long. On Sukkos, says Rabbi Gringlas, his avodah by saying Hallel and then Anuyim and the Lulav and Esrog was very unique and special. Every morning of Sukkos, he would close himself up in his sukkah for a while. Then during the Na'anuyim, he would sing a unique tnuah, a unique nigun between the words. He would only use an esrog from Calabria. And one year, he got an esrog which was not very mehudar. It was green and it had a stain in it. But since that was the only Calabria esrog around, so he used it. And that Sukkos, he was sad the whole entire Sukkos. And he said that the esrog corresponds to the heart, the place of tshuva. And when there is a stain on the esrog, that's a sign that chas v'shalom, that there is a stain in the heart. And that whole entire Sukkos, his davening was full of crying. I was by him once for Simchas Torah, says Rabbi Gringlas, and before Hakafos it was a Farbrengen. And for health reasons, he wasn't allowed to drink mashke, and even wine he didn't drink. And so I remember that he said, today is Simchas Torah, and Medav Zayin B'Simcha, we have to be happy. So he called a Bacher, his name was Shraga, which was a big Talmid Chacham, and he asked this Shraga to bring a Tanya, and he should open up to Perek Lamed Gimel, and he should start reading. So the Shraga started to read a few lines, which Perek Lamed Gimel and Tanya describes the reasons a Yid should always be very much B'Simcha. After a few lines of reading, Zalman stopped him and says, Genug, it's enough. And he started to dance from excitement around the table with tremendous speed, as if he was a very young bacher. And his face was flam fire. And everybody who were watching were very amazed how somebody in his age and in his health condition could run around like that as if he was a young child. His sons tried to stop him, but they couldn't. And all of that was without even a drop of mashke, just from hearing a few lines in Tanya. When he would say Ma'amorim, when he would chazer chassidus, it was a very unique experience. Reb Zalman would explain the Ma'amorim in a wonderful way, and it was a tremendous spiritual pleasure to sit and listen to his Ma'amorim, says Rabbi Gringlas. Sometimes when he will chazer a maimer that spoke about matters of avodah, it will be hard for him to say it smoothly because he will burst out crying in the middle. At the time when he lived in Vitebsk, a group of Anash used to come to his home every Shabbos after Mincha to hear from him a Maimer. So when I was in Lodge, says Rabbi Greenglass, so the minhag was that every Shalashidis we would sing Nigunim, and during the Suda, Reb Zalman would read Perek Kuf Yutes in Tehillim, and many Prakim in Tanya, and then he will eat quickly, and afterwards he will chazer a Maimer for 2 or 3 hours every Shabbos, sometimes even longer. And during the Chazara, he didn't hear and didn't see anything around him. And to this chazering of the Maimer that happened in Lodge, many non-Chabad Chassidim would also come, and also the Tmimim from Timchat Tmimim in Varsha would also come. Whenever a Shliach or a Shadar from Timchat Tmimim will come as a guest to the city, so then he would honor him to say the Maimer instead, and he would listen very attentively to it. And it was a wonderful scene to see such a big Chassid, the tremendous amount of bitul and sincerity of the way he listened to the Maimer no matter who chazered it. Once, Rosh Chodesh Nisan was on Shabbos, so that means that the Motzei Shabbos was Beis Nisan, the Yom HaHilula of the Rebbe Rashab. So when it was Bein HaShmoshes, when it was almost night already, that Shabbos, Reb Zalman, instead of chazering a Maimer Baal Peh, he asked that he should bring him a Maimer of the Rebbe Rashab. And he asked a Chassid over there, his name was Reb Mendel, which was the Rosh Hashiva of Timchat Tmimim in Lodge, that he should read the Maimer from the inside in honor of Beis Nisan. Afterwards, Reb Zalman sang the Nigun that the Rebbe Rashab would sing during his davening. And during the Nigun, Reb Zalman was in tremendous dveikus. And after the Nigun, he said, it's known that through a Nigun, you could connect to the Ba'al Nigun, to the Rebbe of the Nigun. But how can you connect when you're in such a dirt? And he burst out crying, and he couldn't calm himself down for a while. Reb Zalman would put a lot of effort to influence the young Chassidim who came to his house to learn Chassidus from him, that they should get used to think Ma'amar Chassidus Baal Peh. They should think Baal Peh Ma'amar Chassidus. And he spoke about it at length, and he would explain the greatness of that and how much that helps to purify your mind from having Chassidus engraved in your mind. And he will bring for that examples of Ziknei Chassidim from previous generations that their main Hatzlach on Avodas Hashem was from the fact that they got used to always think Chassidus. I remember, says Rabbi Greenglass, that once when I was a young bacher, Rabbi Zalman took a Sefer Ma'amarim Kuntreisim, which was the Ma'amarim of the Fidik Rebbe, and he told me to read a few lines from the Sefer. Then he closed the Sefer, and he asked me to chazer those few lines Baal Peh. Then he opened up the Sefer again, and he told me to read the next few lines, and told me to chazer them Baal Peh again, to train me to chazer Baal Peh Chassidus. A few of the Polish Chassidim that came to his house, he would show them what it says in the Hagdama to Imre Bina. Imre Bina is a Sefer Chassidus from the Mittel Rebbe, where the Mittel Rebbe writes over there that somebody who never put on tefillin, he's considered to be a Poisheya Yisrael with his body. But then the Mittel Rebbe writes, somebody who is lazy when it comes to learning Chassidus and understanding Chassidus, he's considered to be a Poisheya Yisrael with his neshama. And he will explain it to those Polish Chassidim about the importance of learning and understanding Chassidus. A special effort Reb Zalman invested to get us used to knowing a lot of Likutei Torah. He once saw me, says Rabbi Greenglass, that I was copying the Maimer, the famous Maimer of Vayadato Moskva of the Rebbe Rashab. Even though, says the Rabbi Greenglass, in that period of time, I didn't really understand much Chassidus, but somebody told me that that's a very rare Maimer, and it's worth it for me to sit down and copy it, so I have a copy. So when he saw that, he asked me, why am I copying this Maimer? So I told him. So Reb Zalman asked me, did you ever hear of the Chassid Reb Shmuel Ber Borisover? And he started to describe me, the great Chassid Reb Shmuel Ber Borisover. And then he finished off saying that all of his gadlus was from the fact that he was a baki, he was fluent in Likutei Torah. So he asked me, do you know Likutei Torah well already? In other words, why are you jumping to copying Ma'amarim before you know the basics, Likutei Torah? In the Tafresh Tzadik Hey or Tzadik Vav, the Fidik Rebbe sent the Siddur of the Baal Shem Tov to Reb Zalman with the purpose of him showing it to whoever wants to see it if they donate money to Timchat Tmimim in Lodge. But anybody who wanted to see it needed to go to the mikveh, and even then they weren't allowed to pick it up or hold it. Rather, one of Reb Zalman's people would turn the pages and show it to whoever came to see. So Rabbi Greenglass says that he was zeicha to be one of the people who showed the people who lined up the Siddur of the Baal Shem Tov. When Reb Zalman came to the Frierdiker Rebbe and Yutes Kislev Tofresh Tzadik Tes, and he stood in the entrance to the Yechidus room, waiting to go into Yechidus, so Reb Chatzah Fegin, the Frierdiker Rebbe's secretary, said to the Bachrim, "You have no brains, Bachrim." When Reb Zalman used to come to Lubavitch back in the days of the Rebbe Rashab, we used to surround him in order to squeeze something out of him, and you guys are not using that opportunity. So Reb Zalman overheard that, and he waved with his hands like to make a motion of, it's not a big deal. And he said, yeah, there's nothing to hear. I heard, says Rabbi Gringlas, that at that visit, the Frierdiker Rebbe showed him tremendous signs of affection and honor. For example, during the Farbrengen, the Frierdiker Rebbe sat at the head of the table, and Reb Zalman sat on his left side, Mamesh right next to him, and in the corner of the table, the Rashag sat, and besides for them, nobody else sat by the table. So Reb Zalman Schneerson passed away in the ghetto in Lodz during the Holocaust on Yud Beis Tammuz Hey Tov Shin, and he was buried over there in the city of Lodz. We'll now play a Tnuah that Reb Zalman used to like singing, and it's mekubal that this Tnuah is from the Baal Shem Tov.
Tararo yamamam, tararo yamamai, oh yedaram, yamamamamama, yomo yetai narom, nararo yamamam, tararo yitadaram, oh yedaram. Mama, mama, yomo yenanayam. Oh ye na 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 na, mo ye na 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 na, yama mama 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 ma inara inaram. Oh inara ro, yama mama mama mo yeta inaram. Oh ye na 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 na, mo ye na 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 na, yama mama 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 ma inara inaram. Oh inara ro, yama mama mama mo yeta inaram. Nararo yama mama, nararo yama mama. Oh, yenara, yama mama mama, yomo yama yom.